What's up everyone, welcome back to the channel and to this overview of Loopmix by Audiomodern. And this is a fantastic sequencer plugin. I've been playing around with it quite a lot over the past few days, and it's clearly become my favorite sequencer, not only because you have more than one single track to play around with, so this could be kind of the instrument on its own, but you can also do so much within a single line, a single instrument. So let's kind of look over the basic functionalities of the plugin and then see how creative we can get with some of these special features that Loopmix comes equipped with. In classic Audiomodern fashion, this revolves around this idea of randomizing parameters to get kind of an infinite possibilities kind of approach to music making. And the first thing that stands out here is obviously this big red button, which is the randomizing button. So clicking on this, if you don't have anything locked, which you can do from here, will randomize parameters, and you can see stuff happening here as well. We'll get to that. You have different ways of randomizing things here. So you have the classic randomizer function, which is this button here. You can also do a more nuanced version of that randomization. And then this is a really cool one. This is kind of a momentarily randomizing function. This is amazing. So you can just press this and it plays through that, whatever the combination is, and it only does it while you play that button. And all of this stuff is MIDI assignable, so you can have a button on your keyboard that does specifically that. And Bob's your uncle, you can get a really amazing variation of a loop that you have. It's completely random, it's never going to be the same. When you do it again, it's fantastic. I love this feature. And up here you have the standard elements that you have in a lot of Audiomodern plugins that fit this mold. You can have the plugin play with your DAW, so the moment you press the space key, or you can have this assigned to your keyboard and you can play like that, and this is dependent on the octave that you're playing in. So that's playing through the whole thing, all 6 stems, but then you can also just cycle through one of them. And these are just the stems that I added here. So you have a lot of freedom in how you want to approach this. So let's say you want to So you can play around with that, you can engage them, disengage them, it's really cool. You also have the mixer. This is independent, so it doesn't really matter what you do here. For instance, with the volume subcategory, we'll get to that. This is a general mixer, so if, for instance, you want that vocal chop to be a bit less loud, you'll do it from here, and then double clicking it will reset it. And you also have a master fader. Solo mute, this is pretty cool. You also have a lock button, so if you want some of these parameters to be locked, you can do that and they won't be affected by the randomization features. And then obviously you can reset the whole thing. These are some of the standard features that Audiomodern plugins tend to have. So the disintegration feature and the loop feature, so how many times does it loop until it starts collapsing into itself, and how many repetitions. So this is standard stuff that you'll find in most of the plugins that are most of the Audiomodern plugins that are based on this kind of infrastructure and this kind of UI. But let's get into the nitty-gritty of things with this, now that we've covered kind of the overarching randomization features and play features here. So I'm gonna stick to just play it with the DAW. And now we're going to take a look at the individual modules. I'm just going to select this region here. It's going to be just a basic drum loop. Before we get to these features here, all of these modules have the same 3 buttons. So you have the randomizing feature, which goes through the sequences and kind of chooses a pattern for you. Then obviously the reset button, and then this one enables or disables it for the main randomizing button. For now, I'm gonna just hit a random pattern here, maybe a couple of them. Let's see what we get. I like it. I'm just gonna disengage that one, and this is what I'm gonna be working with. In terms of individual options for this module, you have the speed, so we can speed it up here. Or slow it down. You can shift the whole arrangement. By whatever increment you have here. This mono and poly thing is really cool. So this will let you or prohibit you from playing or hearing two of these chops at the same time. So on mono, see, it's graying out everything that was playing at the same time, but in poly you can have multiple things playing at the same time. I find it much more naturalistic, but I can imagine so many scenarios where you do want mono. Then these three, subtle, normal, and complex, deal with how complex or subtle the randomization is. For subtle, it's mainly focusing on one track and adding just a few other elements from other tracks. For the other ones, you can get something as crazy as what I have here now, because I was using the complex one when choosing this pattern itself. And this also works in conjunction with the anchor, so you can select, in this case, maybe I want track 1 to be the anchor and that one have less change, and the other one's changing a whole lot more. So these two work together to give you the desired random effect if you want a bit less randomness or a whole lot of randomness. Moving on to the rearrange module here, it's pretty straightforward. It's literally rearranging your chops. So for instance, I'm actually going to engage that much of the vocal chop, and then let me solo it. And now in the rearrange module, I can easily move these chops around and see what I get. I like that. And you can obviously randomize this. You have fixed, so you can add 4 things that have them move around, fewer than that, and you can go up to 16 different changes. Variable, this makes it even more random, so you can have a minimum and a maximum of whatever, and it kind of moves things around in those parameters. But let's have a listen to what this did with the rest of the music. I love it. Moving on to the reverse, again, pretty straightforward, and you have the same parameters like on the rearrange module, fixed and variable, how many changes basically it adds. So let's see, it's as easy as clicking it and it's going to reverse it. Let's see what we can get here. Pretty cool. For the density, you have the same things. Again, how many slices, but here you have how many slices per each of these small chops. So for instance, if I want these two hi-hats to be like that, or add more here, back to the sequencer. I'm gonna disengage that. I don't really like it that much. Let's see if I engage this one and add a bit of extra density. What happens? I love that. Then we can move on to volume. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Same parameters, fixed variable. So you can tell each individual track and each individual chop how loud it should be. So let's see. I'm gonna play around with this. Let's say I give it a bit of a raise here. Again, pretty self-explanatory, as is the pitch. Let's say we want to play around with the pitch of some of these, and you can change the scale that this is happening in. you have all of the normal scales and modes, so that's good. You can assign this to whatever you want. You again have fixed variable when it comes to the randomizing functions, but then you also have shift, which is pitch shift, or form and shift, or a combination of both. So I'm gonna keep it, let's say, to both of them, and add a bit of an octave descend, starting with a fourth, but then descending to the octave. I'm gonna keep it like that, and that's the pitch module. And as you saw, all of these have similar parameters they can change, but they do completely different things to your chops. Overall, in this kind of main page view, you have some more macro functions here. So you obviously have a way to actually import your samples or just add samples from Audiomodern's library to here, and you can add your own. All of these chops are stuff that I had on my computer, and then it's easy to just drag and drop new things. You can macro pitch here, and also if you go here, you can select what track this stuff is applied to. So you can apply it to everything. So for instance, if you really like this, it's currently an E minor, but let's say you really wanted an F minor, you can offset it, do all of the stuff. You even have the speed here and how many slices. For instance, if you want 32 slices, it is going to chop it up in smaller chunks. And then this is pretty cool because you can snap it or not when you make your selections here. So even with the overall selection, this will not snap to the grid if you don't have that engaged. And then as you saw at the beginning, you can log these so they're not affected by any of the randomizing features, or you can completely remove something by just the press of a button. Obviously you have a solo and mute for each track, and as I said, you can go through these one by one and apply more macro settings to them without necessarily going to the arrange to the individual modules to tell it what to do. And as I showed you at the beginning, you can play the individual stems in their entirety on this side of your keyboard, so from C1. But you can also play them as a sequence, so the exact thing that you have in your sequencer. So just different ways of making that happen. And then you have all of these empty slots where you can put your own remixes. So for instance, I really love this. I'm gonna put it here, but then I'm gonna randomize everything, put it here. And now if I'm gonna play it, and as opposed to the other ones, I can actually use the black keys as well to add my remixes. I can also generate them and see what I get. So literally infinite possibilities with something like this. And finally, let's say you like what you did, you can actually export them either as MIDI or as audio files, so individual files that you can drag and drop into your session, or as a mix down, or literally as audio files in your folder to play around with this later on. So this is what Loopmix is in a bit of a nutshell. It's one of the best sequencer plugins that I've encountered so far, and I actually really love working with it. It's so simple, it's so intuitive, and the fact that you can do so much to your chop, to your loops, means that you can get an infinite variation of sounds. And imagine just adding effects, for instance, to all of this stuff. You add a bit of distortion, you add a bit of reverb, delay, or whatnot. You can get some amazing sounds from just one single loop. You can chop it to your heart's content and mangle it to get an infinite spectrum of diverse sounds. So this is an amazing plugin, and I don't know if you've noticed throughout the session, but it actually doesn't really take up that much CPU. So it's playing 6 stems, it's adding so much crazy effects to this. It's rearranging it, changing the pitch, reversing it, adding multiple sub chops, and it doesn't really go above 1%. So it is pretty efficient on that front as well. And yeah, what can I say? I highly recommend you give this one a go. To me, it's a bit of a no-brainer. Check it out. Try the demo. I'm 100% sure you're gonna like it. And let me know in the comments below if you did try Loopmix, what you thought about it. If you do use any other Audiomodern plugins, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.